So welcome to the Royal Society of Literature's Summer Party. So over the next half hour, I'm going to reveal some exciting RSL news, and we'll hear from our president, from Damien Barr, and I'll disclose with restrained excitement the names of this year's Fellows and Honorary Fellows, as well as announcing the winner of the Benson Medal. So I'm Daljit Nagra, chair of the RSL, and it's fantastic to be in a room with many of these Isles' finest exponents and ambassadors of literature. And how lovely to be joined by those of you who are across the world online. If you believe it, or if you can believe it, the RSL has even more fellows and honorary fellows in one room than last year. We reckon there are 174 of you here now at last count. And that makes this the greatest number of literature's finest in one room on record for the RSL. Yes, thank you for making it possible. And we should apply to Guinness Book of Records, shouldn't we? So it's a fitting time and place to share some news with you all. Not only do you get to meet the newly elected writers and literary supporters for the year, you're also getting a first peek at the RSL's new look branding. Ooh, and at our new website. The previous website was, of course, marvellous, especially if you're still cutting the mustard with an Amstrad. Over the past 2 years, we've been assiduously developing a zeitgeisty new demeanour for brand RSL. This is one of many measures that marks, yet again, the feeling of a beginning for us at RSL. Another initiative we're embarking on this winter at our 203rd birthday, on 30th of November, will be the announcement of our first ever illustrator in residence for the RSL. For the midpoint of our bicentenary festival, RSL 200, we're launching this new program celebrating the relationship between word and image and supporting human artistic creatives by commissioning an illustrator in residence each and every year. All this is made possible, of course, by the doling of your bounty upon the RSL, your opening of the pockets, the loose change of kindness shower upon us. Most generous of all is the Hawthornden Foundation. In a moment, I'd like us to raise a glass to Drew Hines. We thank Drew for her philanthropic legacy, a legacy that continues to transform what literary organisations are able to do for writers and readers. And we want to thank the totally tops team of trustees at the Hawthornden Foundation for their generosity. So thank you, and let's raise a glass to Drew Hines. Got mine somewhere. Thank you. Thank you, Drew. Well, now, to be frank and maybe foremost with you, and I blush ever so chocolately, but I do indeed, and I can say that. But I would be an irresponsible chair, would I not, if I were not to say to myself, not to anyone here, of course, but to make a mere note to self that the RSL is always, indeed always, in need of support. Without support from any who attend its parties, I say to myself, would it be possible for the RSL to break new ground for literature across this divided kingdom, and indeed across the globe entire? A further note to self, there are pamphlets that are settled about the room. At the back of each of these pamphlets, there is the most handsome-looking QR code. Through the portal of this dashing QR, I, or anyone else such as I, can donate to the RSL and help secure its future. Oh, fortunate body of the RSL, albeit 203 years old, yet still it ticks on and cannot diminish its lust for literary life. Oh, most blessed and beautiful QR code that hath the powers of a lifeline. There ends a note to self about the doctorly and surgeon powers of supporting the RSL. And today we have been full of life, as we are always. We've been inducting nearly 80 fellows and honorary fellows elected between 2020 and 2023. They've been inducted by our president, Bernardine Evaristo, and have signed the nearly 200-year-old RSL roll book alongside fellows elected since 1825. They've used one of several pens that once lit the visionary path for some eminent authors. They've had the choice of pens once used by Jean Rhys, Arnold Wesker, Andrew Levy, Charles Dickens, George Eliot, T.S. Eliot, and of course, Lord Byron, my favourite. Upon each who use these pens today, may they have been sprinkled with canonical stardust. So before I announce our Fellows and Honorary Fellows, I would like us to welcome on stage a Booker Prize winner whose Girl, Woman, Other has sold well over 1 million copies and has been translated into more tongues than there are paint colours in a Farrow and Ball chart. She's established several successful arts inclusion initiatives, such as the Complete Works Poetry Mentoring Scheme and the Brunel International African Poetry Prize. She has seen the worth in building hope in us woe-begone poets, and we thank her for it. She is a Professor of Creative Writing at Brunel University, London, and she has won too many accolades to mention now. Safe to say, she's the only double president I've ever come across. She is president of Rose Bruford College of Theatre and Performance, but most augustly, of course, she is our president. So please welcome on stage Bernardine Evaristo.
Thank you. Media coverage of recent artificial intelligence developments is everywhere at the moment, much of it triggered by the advent of ChatGPT, a phenomenal AI application released at the end of November last year, which gained a record-breaking 100 million users within 2 months. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the software terminology, ChatGPT is a chatbot, a compound word derived from chatterbox and robot, which is sometimes abbreviated to the word bot. Chatbots are computer software programmed to respond to questions by mimicking human conversation and interaction, either by voice or text. Siri and Alexa are earlier examples of the system that has long been used for online or telephone customer services. ChatGPT, however, possesses the most advanced capabilities of the system to date. Its neural networks are modeled on the neural pathways of the human brain, which enable it to respond to questions from every subject of study or area of life, as if it is human, as if it's talking directly to you. Whereas internet search engines also answer questions and provide links to websites that might be useful, ChatGPT goes much further and within seconds presents its replies in a cohesive, structured manner in whatever format and style is required. Thus far, the quality of the app's replies are varied and unpredictable. It's not always accurate or convincing, or shall we say, humanoid enough. There are also limits to its capabilities, such as trying to predict the future, as I learned when I asked it which novelists might make the Booker long list this year. It also provides the option to translate reams of text into foreign languages, once again in seconds, from Hindi to Yoruba, Navajo to Maori, ancient Greek to Sanskrit, Old English to Latin. It doesn't profess to be as reliable as online translation websites, which in my experience are not very reliable at all, but it gives it a go. And the app is surprisingly creative and polymathic, like a true Renaissance person. You see, it does feel quite human. It will write essays, articles, poetry, scripts, business pitches. It creates visual art, writes songs and music. It can complete computer code and solve science problems. Testing its capability, I asked it to write an obituary for Paddington Bear, which it did quite authentically, with this hilarious caveat at the end. This obituary is a fictional creation and not based on any events or individuals. Paddington Bear remains a beloved fictional character. Next, I challenged it to come up with a sequel to Mrs. Dalloway, and it duly obliged with a convincing scenario set decades in the future that focused on the descendants of Clarissa Dalloway and Septimus Warren Smith. Nor was it superficial. It suggested that Warren Smith's son, now grown, carries the weight of his father's tragic story and battles with his own mental health issues. Through his experiences, the novel explores the impact of trauma, the struggles of coping with mental illness, and the quest for healing and understanding. Playing around with ChatGPT is exciting. Instant knowledge and ideas, analysis and creativity at our fingertips like never before. In my attempt to outfox it, I asked, which 19th and 20th century writers should have been made Fellows of the Royal Society of Literature? Surely this was beyond its job description. I was wrong. It produced a list of celebrated authors, summed up their literary works, achievements, and impact, and explained why they should have been made Fellows. Foremost among them were Charles Dickens, George Orwell, James Joyce, and Virginia Woolf. Two writers who had actually been Fellows were incorrectly listed, as well as Jane Austen, who died in 1817 before the Society was founded in 1820. The app is imperfect, but this was nonetheless quite impressive. However, we know that attractive technological advances also bring hidden dangers. For example, that an addiction to online communication risks social isolation and all its attendant issues. And we've already sleepwalked into having our data organs harvested by the masters of the internet for monetary gain. We must ask ourselves about the implications of ChatGPT, the ethics, the philosophy behind it, the consequences. We have to interrogate it from all angles because the inventors of these systems that now dominate our culture are mainly geeky young men drunk on their computer coding genius. For those of us gathered here today, it is urgent that we understand this app and how it might affect us writers, our creativity, the industry, our precious literature culture. The app is a game changer, radically altering our access to information and creativity, and it is developing so rapidly that we, individuals, organizations, the guardians of institutions, governments, legislatures, are struggling to fully comprehend both its positive and negative potential, short and long term. In one sense, ChatGPT is a parasitic, plagiaristic, rapacious superbrain programmed to roam the internet and ingest its contents so that it can replicate thought processes, our imagination, and our writing. In the few months of its existence, it has caused an unprecedented headache for universities. High-level cheating used to involve buying tailor-made essays from essay mills, a thriving industry adopted by students who could afford it. The demand, supplied by retired, possibly embittered academics, engaged in a second, covert, perhaps more lucrative career. That really was the past, even though it was yesterday, because this app can write original essays for free in seconds. If you repeat the same question, it will produce a different results. Each piece of writing is therefore one-off, unique, undetectable. The temptation must be irresistible, but not only to the student population who are struggling, but to those who could do well on their own merits, but realize they don't have to anymore. Why spend hours studying, expanding your knowledge base, sharpening your memory and critical thinking skills when you can fake it and get away with it? How many of us would have succumbed to this when we were in education? And even if the results are not perfect, or too perfect to fool your teachers, it can produce a promising first draft that can then be revised. The education sector is considering a return to more in-person exams as countermeasure. It's also exploring how to work with ChatGPT to make the most of its resources. Recent articles have even proposed the idea that physical teachers can, or even should be, replaced by the app's tutors. A wonderful idea. Why have face-to-face human interaction when we all know that young people need to spend more time staring into a computer screen in their bedrooms? It goes without saying that this is an incredible educational tool and one that can be transformative in places where there isn't access to education. One of the app's top 5 benefits, according to itself, is creative writing assistance, which comes in at number 4, after conversational assistance, knowledge retrieval, and language translation, but before learning and education, which is surprisingly last on the list. Its attempts to produce original creative writing aren't always successful, which is good news for those of us who are writers and who teach creative writing. I instructed it to write a beautiful and moving love poem, which it obediently delivered. Here it is. In the realm where hearts entwine, a love story begins, oh so divine, where souls find solace and tender embrace, and time stands still in this sacred space. In your eyes, I see the endless skies, a universe of love that never dies. Your touch, a gentle breeze upon my skin, igniting flames that burn deep within. Now, this is doggerel by literary standards, and it will get a D- from me. But it's still poetry, it uses poetic techniques, and some readers might actually find it moving and beautiful. We must remind ourselves that the technology is still nascent, but its potential to improve is exponential. Continuing my experiment, I asked ChatGPT to write a short story in the style of Ernest Hemingway, which it dutifully did, producing a shamelessly sentimental rehash of his most famous work, The Old Man and the Sea, replete with a marlin. When I asked it to write a short story in the style of Bernardine Evaristo, the result was awful and a little embarrassing. Really, I thought, you think I write like this? I was momentarily engaging with the superbrain as if it was human. How nuts is that? The Writers Guild of America is currently on strike, in part due to AI. They are demanding that the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers agree to not using AI to replace or rewrite human writing. I can't quite believe I've had to stipulate this, human writing, or to use it as source material, or to use writers' copyrighted material to train AI, all of which is currently happening. In response, the Alliance has offered to hold annual meetings to discuss advancements in technology. No wonder American writers are worried. They should be livid. We should be worried too. Their strike is important because this app blindsided even the tech community when it burst onto the scene. We're all struggling to keep up with it. In the US, a class action lawsuit by 2 novelists on behalf of hundreds of thousands of authors has just been brought against OpenAI for its unauthorized collection of information across the web to train ChatGPT, which they argue infringes on copyright law. This is only the beginning of the fight back against exploiting the work of creatives without their permission. And while we haven't yet mobilized in the UK, the Society of Authors offers advice to its members on its website, and they are developing a white paper. The data set for my commissioned ChatGPT must surely derive from the worst kind of greeting cards. But what if it were to plunder poems by, say, Joelle Taylor, Liz Berry, Roger Robinson, Andrew Macmillan, Warsan Shira, Simon Armitage, Salima Hill, Jay Bernard, which clearly it did not. Imagine the outcome then. We have to wake up to the fact that big brotherist, big tech bros are mining our creativity. Fun fact, OpenAI is currently valued at $29 billion. Its mission, in its own words, is to deliver safe and beneficial artificial intelligence, highly autonomous systems that outperform humans at most economically valuable work. Elon Musk was originally a board member, although he turned against it on ethical grounds. Who knew? OpenAI is clearly not hiding its ambitions. Machines that outperform humans. Rather than, say, the welfare of humans or protecting our rights and creativity or fostering understanding between communities or curing cancer. It is understandable that businesses such as publishers might find the benefits of ChatGPT tantalizing as it continues to evolve in reliability and sophistication. I can imagine their reasoning. Why employ so many proofreaders, marketers, data analysts, or hey, even those illustrators, designers, and even writers, when an app can do the job just as well, for free, and at such speed, seconds instead of months or years? And we don't have to pay wages, abide by employment law, provide office space, or soothe writers' egos. Think of the productivity, think of the profits. It's already happening. A literature organization recently employed a company that used AI to design a program without their knowledge. When they were alerted to this, the design was withdrawn. Last April, a ChatGPT-generated play called Play AI was produced at Riverside Studios as an exercise in pushing the boundaries of what AI can do in terms of theatre making, including its suggestions for lighting, sound, and set design. In The Stage, the director himself described the result as pretty terrible, which is good news, I think. Why would we want such an experiment to succeed? It might be attractive as a cost-cutting exercise, but what about the artists, the writers, creatives who find themselves replaced by bots? And why would we outsource our creativity to an alien brain? Writers cherish our skills and imagination, hard-won, hard-earned. Imagine if we were to start relying on software to give us ideas, providing solutions to our writing challenges. Imagine if we relied on it to do everything for us, including, for some unscrupulous souls, the actual writing itself. Our skills will decline, our imagination muscles will atrophy, we will become dependent, passive, depressed. The problem is that I don't think there's a problem right now with the way we write. It works. Most of us take great satisfaction in being creative and communicating our creativity. ChatGPT is programmed to be creative, but it's not the same. And we have to ask ourselves, who controls it? Whose politics are behind it? I asked the app a final question. What happens to a society when people lose the ability to be creative? It didn't hesitate to summarize the problems. Stagnation, lack of originality, decreased adaptability, reduced motivation and fulfillment, and, tagged on the end, limited cultural and artistic expressions. There you have it, out of the horse's mouth. Worst case scenario, we stop thinking for ourselves and slowly become self-lobotomized, spending our days endlessly scrolling through thousands of social media posts, getting our junkie fix of dopamine hits, retaining no memory of what we've seen, which was briefly entertaining, but essentially useless. Our memories are shot to pieces, our intelligence and creativity subsides, and we find ourselves in a big tech dystopia, easily controlled and manipulated. Best case scenario, the app proves to be an incredibly useful tool that improves our lives, enhances our writing and creativity, promotes our well-being, and benefits our societies in wholly positive ways. I am not risk-averse or resistant to change, to real progress, but I fear we are guinea pigs in someone else's experiment, and we need to work out the consequences of this instead of blindly embracing it. I can't help thinking that sometimes slow is good, and just because we can use advanced technology, it doesn't mean that we should, if we don't know where it might lead us. Thank you. Yes.
It's back to me again. We couldn't get the real Bernardine Evaristo, so we had the AI version. I hope you appreciated her. She was very good, wasn't she? What would a writer be were it not for other writers and colleagues to help us, to chivvy us along into our next daydream of a book? Honorary Fellows of the RSL are the incredible stalwarts who are recognised for their contribution to literature, their ability to support readers and writers, to facilitate literary excellence, to widen access, and to bring literature to everyone, I say. I'm going to announce our Honorary Fellows for 2023, and I want you to give them a big cheer. Just do it whenever you want. I'll just read it, it's about 16. Nell Andrew. Mohit Bakaya. Richard Bezic. James Curry. Georgina Godwin, Chris Gribble, Mark C. Hewitt, Peggy Hughes, Andrew Kidd, Robin Marshak, Henderson Mullin, Emma Patterson, Susan Roberts, Aki Schultz, Bill Swainson, and Sylvia Whitman. Fantastic. You're the nicest audience ever. That's amazing. Last year they were terrible, but this is great. Thank you. So congratulations to all our honorary fellows. You are incredible, and we have loads of information about you in the back of the pamphlets. And now I'm delighted to announce the Benson Medallist for 2023. This medal is awarded by the RSL for outstanding commitment to the advancement of literature, demonstrated over a career of work. The medal was newly designed for our 200th birthday in 2020, and it is worth a look. I think Molly's got a spare one you can have a look at later. It's quite spectacular. And this year's winner of the Benson Medal is Susan Roberts. I'll say a few words about her. Susan is head of BBC Culture, Arts and Music Audio North. She has directed over 200 radio plays for Radios 3 and 4 and made many arts documentaries, that's the word. As well as working in audio, Susan has directed several film and theatre projects. Susan Roberts sadly cannot be with us here with us tonight, but her daughter Emmeline is with us to collect the medal on her mother's behalf, and hopefully she's got a few words to say. Emmeline, come up wherever you are.
Thank you very much. Oh, that is heavy. It's very heavy. It's ironic that my mother, Susan Roberts, cannot be here today because she is busy making a series for BBC Radio 4 in the most northerly settlement in the world, the British base in Svalbard in the Arctic, with the poet laureate Simon Armitage. So as excuses go, I feel that's pretty good. She's extremely sorry to be missing the chance to say thank you in person, and has asked me to let you know that she is genuinely moved to be offered this honorary fellowship. It is also an unexpected honor, her words, for her to join the list of inspiring people who have won the Benson Medal. She had to reread the letter from Bernardine Evaristo several times before it sunk in. Her own passions and interests as a reader and a believer in the power of literature have gone hand in hand with a career in public service in the BBC, where she's been able to bring writers and poets to a wider audience. But her involvement in literature goes beyond her day job. She has been on many boards over the years, including the Poetry Society, Carcanet, and Z Arts, been a judge on national poetry competitions, including this year's Forward Prize, worked with young dramatists in the theatre, offered development to support new writers, taught on writing courses, and been involved in many literary festivals, including being the director of Contained Strong Language, which she started in 2017. She was so disappointed not to be able to attend today, not just for her own sake, but to miss the chance to help celebrate the other writers who are being recognised and rewarded. Nevertheless, it's a delight for me to be able to accept this accolade on her behalf. Thank you very much.
A lovely speech from one so young. Very impressive child that Susan has reared, if I can put it that way. Maybe I shouldn't. Okay, anyway, now before we welcome the 2023 Fellows, I'm going to ask Damien Barr on stage. Not yet though, Damien. Damien is a writer, broadcaster and salonier, whatever that means. His coming of age and coming out memoir, Maggie and Me, was set in Thatcher, Scotland, and was named Sunday Times Memoir of the Year, and it's been turned into a play. His debut novel, You Will Be Safe Here, reveals South Africa's hidden history ranging from now to the Boer War. It was a BBC Radio 4 Book at Bedtime and Observer Book of the Year. Since 2008, his literary salon has celebrated emerging and established voices. Damien was elected a Fellow of the RSL in 2020 and joins us tonight as chair of the 2023 RSL Open Fellowship nomination panel. So please welcome on stage the wonderful, the lovely Damien.
Thank you very much, Daljit, and also thank you to Tayo, who's signing tonight, everybody. Bernardine and I did get the memo for the Garden Museum come dressed as a garden, and I'm glad to see that so many of you did as well. It's a real pleasure to be here, and it was a privilege to chair the RSL Open Panel, which we did mostly on Zoom. Now, as a panel of fellows, our stated aim was to celebrate the excellence of writers from communities that have been underrepresented in UK literary culture. Why? Well, because, as the Society says, literature is at its best when it includes voices from the greatest breadth of backgrounds and experiences in all literary forms from across the UK, which includes Scotland. For now. Anyway, I discovered very many new voices and stories when I was reading. We were sent over 100 nominations and we came up with a short list of 54 people to read more of. And I was saying to some people tonight, it's remarkable how many of those people who are on that list and you just think, well, surely they're a fellow already. Why, they're so incredible. The expression that we used most often was, why isn't she a fellow already? So I want to thank all of the fellows who've been part of this initiative over the last couple of years. You don't have to applaud for them all. You can applaud at the end when I've done them all. So it's Bernardine Evaristo, Jay Bernard, Anthony Vanni Capodeo, Ian Duhigg, Coonan Jones, Val McDermott, Daljit Nagra in his lovely shoes, Nikesh Shukla, Ali Smith, Sinead Morrissey, Jack Thorne, Com Tobin, Ellie Williams, Monica Ali, Nick Laird, Sabrina Mahfouz, Charlotte Mendelsohn, Irenison Okoje, and Chibundu Onuzo. And now we applaud. So, when this committee was launched on the RSL's 200th birthday in November 2020, and no less a personage than Hilary Mantel was made a Companion of Literature that year, which is the highest honour that the RSL can bestow on a writer, an incredible writer, and I had the privilege of interviewing her once, and she's the only person I've ever interviewed who speaks in full paragraphs. They just tumbled from her mouth. It was astonishing. So I'm going to share some of Hilary Mantel's words. She said, "Not all writers come from cultured or academic backgrounds or identify with the mainstream. Not all writers see other writers every day or have professional advice and experience to draw on. Some of us are not too strong, and some of us live in unfashionable places, and some of us struggle with self-belief because we have nothing to strengthen it. Some of us, who have been blessed with success, never forget what it means to feel we are on the outside looking in." She said, "I am happy to be able to support and endorse the RSL's Open Programme to elect 60 new fellows, drawing them from groups who are often marginalised in our cultural life. We pride ourselves that we are a more equal and diverse country than a generation ago, but the world of literature and the arts can still look formidably elitist and discouraging to those without cash and connections. Where do you begin? Who looks like you? Who will give you a hand up?" So tonight has the Hilary Mantel stamp of approval. And if you have an argument, you can take it up with her. We believe that literature is for everyone. So as the RSL Open Programme draws to a close, I'm very pleased to be announcing a brand new fellowship election procedure. The words election procedure, I have to be very careful how I say that. Election procedure are not that thrilling to very many people, but this is a big change and it's very important because from this year, from winter onwards, the public will be asked to recommend writers to be made fellows of the RSL. And as before, each year, a new panel of RSL fellows will be convened to read these recommendations and the writing samples, and to then argue about it on Zoom. So we're going to be working with more fellows than ever before. Now, we like to think that we all have great taste and we like to think that we're all well read, but the process that we went through brought us all new writers, and it made us think about people in the past who you would assume were fellows and weren't. Writers like Charles Dickens, not a fellow. George Eliot, not a fellow. Virginia Woolf, not a fellow. Sylvia Plath, Bucci Mcheta, Oscar Wilde, not fellows. There is another wild writing out there now, another wolf, another one of you, and this change is for them. But we will all benefit from broader, deeper shelves of brilliance, from open shelves. Thank you.
Lovely words there from Damien, who does look like a flower, the very dream and vision of the Valis, I'd say. So I'm now going to reveal, a bit before we finish, the fellows who are elected for 2023. These include fellows who are part of the RSL Open programme. So you can clap as you did before. It was wonderful after each person. So I'm starting with Leila Abulela. Karin Altenberg. Maniza Alvi. Anthony Anaxaguru. Romelin Anti. Tash Orr. Caris Bray. Rowan Hisayu Buchanan. Jan Carson. Joseph Coelho. Josh Cohen. Patricia Kumper. Emma Dabiri. Tishani Doshi. Wendy Erskine. Jenny Fagan. Gavin Francis. Janice Galloway. Rosie Garland. Sean Hewitt. James Hamilton Patterson. Michael Hoffman. Maya Jaggi. Anthony Joseph. Patrice Lawrence. Sarah Ladipo Manyika. Toby Litt. Roy McFarlane. Darren Garvey. Nesreen Malik. Just a few more now. Kieran Millwood Hargrave. Benjamin Myers. Beverly Naidu. Suniti Namjoshi. Patrick Ness. Kate O'Reilly. Glenn Patterson. Laleen Paul. Leonie Ross. Owen Shears. Sunny Singh. Peter Stottard. Preeti Taneja. Tade Thompson. Erica Wagner. And B. Wilson. That's a workout, isn't it? Well done. Congratulations. Welcome to all our new fellows. We hope you will wear your post-nominal FRSL or HFRSL with pride after your name and with certitude. But fellowship is not only an honour bestowed to a writer by their peers. Being a fellow gives you the chance to make a stand for what literature should be, who it should be for, and how it can change our lives. We at the RSL are a community of readers and writers coming together for the advancement of literature, bringing our manifold experiences and perspectives to bear on some of the biggest questions of our age. I look forward to all the goodness we will produce together as one big, vibrant family over the coming years. All that's left for me to say now is to thank you all for being here in this room and in rooms across the world online. Thank you to our hosts this evening at the Garden Museum. Huge thanks to the RSL team for making this celebration. In particular, our head of operations, Martha Stenhouse, and our events and partnerships manager, Lily Blacksall. Even more particularly, our amazing director who designs and stitches her own garments and who, with needle and thread, has somehow woven us here magically at this hour. How does she do it? Our effervescently percipient, our gaudy goddess of the day, Molly Rosenberg. So please stay, celebrate, talk, drink, eat, until we next see each other in the autumn. Long live literature, citizens. Viva the responsible and liberated writer, citizens. Now go forth and take frivolous photos of yourselves in the I machine there and have copious amounts of drink. Thank you very much.